This is NASCAR Coast to Coast, presented by Whelen, also brought to you by Hercules Tires. Now, with the latest NASCAR local, regional, touring, and international racing news and views, here are Hannah Newhouse and Kyle Rickey.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to NASCAR Coast to Coast here on the Motor Racing Network. I'm Hannah Newhouse, joined as always by Kyle Rickey. And Kyle, you were blessed with my presence multiple times throughout the week last week, whether it was Zoom calls. Didn't get to join us down in Darlington, but we're back here this Tuesday, Monday. It's Monday afternoon when we are recording, but we'll air on Wednesday. And we had racing in, a lot of it over the weekend, including Charlotte for the Coke 600. Did you make it all the way? I think it finished at like 1 a.m.
I did. I had to because we do a couple of Monday morning shows that had to go out to all of our affiliate stations, and I was producing those at 1 o'clock, 1:15 in the morning after the checkered flag. But a great race. In fact, all three of them have been really good. The two Darlington races, the Coke 600 in Charlotte, will run again later tonight as you watch this at the Charlotte Motor Speedway for the second event, a 500-kilometer race. There, the trucks and the Xfinity cars have already run this week. You guys battled Mother Nature, though, a lot in Darlington. Must have enjoyed that ride back and forth to Darlington, South Carolina, 4 or 5 nights in a row, or at least in a week?
Something about 2020 and Mother Nature with NASCAR. Like, we had some great racing, but we battled weather earlier in the season, and then they announced that we're running, 7 races in 11 days, and we get a tropical storm that runs through here. So that was super fun. I was really glad we got the racing on Sunday. It was nice weather for that. And then to go back down there Tuesday and sit in the rain all day long and then drive back. And if you guys have ever driven from the Charlotte area to Darlington, it's a lot of like little state highways. Yep. So the water just sits right on top of the road. It was downpouring, and it's only 2 hours, but when you do that, it 5 times in a week, it adds up, and it makes it, it makes for some late nights. So we were really glad when Thursday kind of came around and we were able to get that final that Xfinity race in on Thursday, take the weekend. And we always giggle that we are based here in the Charlotte area, obviously, but our friends at PRN get to cover the Coke 600. So it's like the one race that is in our backyard we don't do. So we will do the truck race, obviously, on Tuesday on the Motor Racing Network. But yes, Darlington did fortunately have some great racing. Kim and I got to be on pit road for that. And then at one point we were both solo on pit road. And let me tell you, covering 42 cars solo is a very interesting task in itself.
You can't keep up with all of them at once like some of our other pit reporters can?
I mean, I'm sure you can tell I'm a great multitasker, but that is not anything that I was good at that weekend. No, it was difficult. It was nice that, they did me the favor, probably for the first time ever in the Xfinity pit, of having most of the contending drivers in a similar little area. So I was able to bounce around, but it, of course, never failed that they were all at the pit exit, and Chase Briscoe was the last pit stall, the very last pit stall. It didn't fail that's how, of course, that happened for me on the Xfinity race. So, no, at the end of the day, I'm glad we're getting back to racing. Short track racing is back too. Ace Speedway opened their doors over the weekend.
Saw that.
Packed
couple
the
places.
Grandstand.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely packed them. I think Hickory had their doors open to limited fans.
I think it was limited, yeah. I think limited fans. Everybody was limited except for Ace.
Yeah, I think Dillon Motor Speedway had limited fans as well. And we got those results a little bit later. But the modifieds, Kyle, finally got their date. They're coming back racing. It's
going to be an interesting event. The Wade Cole Memorial 133. Obviously, we lost Wade about 2 months ago to an accident in his garage. While he was prepping his car, he ran the number 33 for decades on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour, a journeyman driver. And they're honoring him this weekend at Myrtle Beach Speedway with a tribute event, the Wade Cole Memorial 133. Going to be interesting. It's a Northeast series. The teams are based in the Northeast. So obviously up here in the Northeast, we talked about it last week. Here in Connecticut, still pretty tight. And a lot of the races here are in Connecticut between the 3 at Stafford and the 3 or 4 at Thompson and the race at Seekonk in Massachusetts, which is also pretty tight as far as the phase 1 is concerned in reopening. So NASCAR made the determination to go south, and it'll be interesting to see how that is received. I'm glad the modifieds are getting back on track. I'm just, I have questions about this weekend's race at Myrtle Beach Speedway, an event that wasn't on the schedule and maybe not budgeted for these teams to just kind of pick up and say, okay, now we're going to travel 800 miles or whatever it is down south from the Northeast to Myrtle Beach Speedway. But whatever happens, I'm sure it'll be a great race.
And we'll talk to driver in the Tour, Justin Bonsignore, here shortly for some insight on that. We've got some questions for him, like you mentioned, about how this came together and what these teams are going to endure. Kyle, you're based in Killingley, Connecticut. Obviously, I'm Charlotte, North Carolina. How many hours does that take to drive just from Killingley to Charlotte and then add, 3 or 4 to Myrtle Beach?
I've done it in 12, 13 hours.
And you're not towing a modified?
I'm not towing a modified. No, I was in the Civic.
Oh, good. Great gas mileage. Much better than the toters.
Only had to stop twice. But that's another 2 hours at least, maybe 3 hours to Myrtle Beach from Charlotte, because I went there once for one of their big weekends when I was living down there, and it was a haul. It wasn't around the corner, but it's nice when you get there.
Yes, yeah, and right now, South Carolina, one of those places that has opened up, hence why we went down to Darlington. So they're kind of in a pickle. They're up against a rock and a hard spot, not being able to go to a lot of those racetracks up north where you guys are based, getting some Southern Modified Tour revival going on. But again, those northern guys are going to have their hands full. But also, speaking of the East, ARCA East has now announced that they have got 2 races on their schedule. We somewhat touched on that ARCA was going to be back at Talladega alongside the Cup weekend. But ARCA East now has 2 races solidified on their schedule, being Toledo on June 13th and Five Flags was supposed to be, I believe, in March. They have now been pushed out to October 10th. So big gap between that June 13th and October 10th, but hopefully we'll start to see some more racetracks open up, get to fill those holes in.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later in the show, but more and more racetracks slowly opening up, whether it be for private test sessions with only 2 or 3 cars at a time, or open test sessions but closed to spectators. Every state in a different phase, and I think every phase has a different criteria in every state. So trying to juggle it all, and you got to feel for these short track operators that worked all of November, December, January, and February to really promote their 2020 season, and now lose at least 25 to 50% of what they were hoping for this year. So hopefully the COVID-19 cases continue to decline and short tracks can continue to open up.
Yeah, North Carolina did go into phase 2 over the past weekend. That allowed many of our friends and coworkers, mainly the men, to finally get haircuts because they can walk in to get haircuts. The rest of us as females had to text our hair lady and get in her books in July. Yep. So the rest of us will still be remembering that we are not genuine blondes for the next couple of months. And racetracks were opened in the phase 2, but bars and gyms, the other 2 things that I was looking forward to besides hair and racetracks, still not open down here.
Well, I mean, you touch a lot. They're both indoors. You touch a lot of stuff, although now the CDC is saying that, contact with something else may not, I don't know how they phrased it, but, catching it from a surface is unlikely now. So at least that was as of last week. So again, it's changing every day. So we're just, along for the ride, I guess.
All we know is race car fuel kills coronavirus, folks.
That's right.
Well, that being said, let's get Justin Bonsignore on the phone here on NASCAR Coast to Coast to talk a little bit of modified racing.
Whelen designs and manufactures reliable and powerful warning lights, white illumination lighting, sirens, controllers, and high-powered warning systems for automotive, aviation, and mass notification industries worldwide. Every part of every Whelen product is proudly designed and manufactured in America and is tested on site to meet the toughest industry certifications. On the road, in the air, and around the world, Whelen is trusted to be seen, trusted to be heard, trusted to perform.
Sir, are you aware you were going 40 miles an hour? This is a residential area. Sure, but I'm on my lawnmower. Wait, am I getting a ticket?
No, I've just never seen anyone top 9 miles an hour on one of those bad boys. And mow their entire lawn in 30 seconds? What got into you?
Well, it did fuel up at Sunoco this morning.
At Sunoco, we know how to fuel peak performance. We've been doing it for American racing for over 50 years. Fuel your best.
Wherever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires has the value, selection, and industry-leading warranty to get you there no matter where the road takes you. You can count on Hercules Tires to have your back when times are tough, all while adding money to your pocket. The purchase of 4 qualifying Hercules tires through May 31st, 2020 could get you up to a $70 Visa prepaid card. Visit HerculesTire.com/spring rebate to learn more. That's HerculesTire.com. Hercules Tires. Ride on our strength.
Back to NASCAR Coast to Coast, brought to you by Whelen and by Hercules Tires. Here are Hannah Newhouse and Kyle Rickey.
Welcome back to NASCAR Coast to Coast here on the Motor Racing Network. We're now joined with NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour driver Justin Bonsignore. And Justin, first off, thanks for coming on NASCAR Coast to Coast and hanging out with us.
Thanks for having me on. It's been a while, so it's good to get back to some normalcy here.
Yeah, speaking of a while, it's been a while since you've been racing, and they recently announced it's time for you guys to finally go back. They're kicking the tour off this up-and-coming weekend at Myrtle Beach. What's your excitement level like to finally be able to climb back behind the wheel?
It's definitely way above a 10. It's been a long time. We haven't raced since the Turkey Derby at Wall on Thanksgiving, so pushing 6+ months since we've been in the car just about. So we're excited as a team. The rumors started circling a couple weeks ago, and finally last Friday they were able to get us all the information for this event. And it's a little bit of a long trip, but we're excited to get down there and hopefully get back to normal and get the tour started for 2020.
Before we dive too much deeper into this weekend, you mentioned Turkey Derby 6 months ago. The whole quarantine thing, self-distancing thing started 3 months ago, roughly. What have you been doing with your time?
Been working, luckily. Fortunately, the company I work for, we are a fiber optic cable contractor for a pretty big provider here in New York, and we were deemed essential. So general manager of that company. So we've been trying to keep everybody busy. It's been tough, but luckily we've been able to keep all our guys employed and keep everything going. So that's been passing the time. Been iRacing a bunch. Getting tired of doing that, though. I'm ready to get back to normal, and hopefully it's going to be the start of a handful of races here for us.
And before we hopped on this call, you'd mentioned not only have you been iRacing, but you have decided to now do home renovations. Your time is up. It's time to go back racing. How are you going to finish this home reno project now that the racetrack is calling?
Well, I think I might have oversold that. I am not doing the renovations. I have a contractor. We actually had a leak in the house, and that's what started all this off. And what went from 1 room to 2 rooms now is for whole half of the house. So hopefully while I'm in Myrtle Beach, they can finish that up and I can get back into sleeping in my normal bed and get back to normal on that front as well.
Myrtle Beach this weekend, the Wade Cole Memorial 133 this Saturday. Your thoughts about starting the season at Myrtle Beach Speedway, which was a racetrack that had been on the schedule the last 3 years, but did not appear on the 2020 schedule until about a week and a half ago.
Yeah, there's a lot to the whole Myrtle Beach thing. Obviously, we weren't intended to go there this year, which, it's not the greatest of tracks as far as a driver. You're just not, going hard the whole time. You're saving tires. It's a big strategy race. But on the other side of that, it's fun to have those types of races once or twice a year where strategy plays a big part of it, and the crew chief has a really big hand in all the pit stop strategy. So you throw that in, and then the fact that Myrtle Beach is going to be closing at the end of this year, it is nice to get down there one more time. And to top it all off, we're going to be able to do a tribute race to Wade, who unfortunately was lost right at the beginning of all this. So, it's not the most perfect situation by any means, but I think it'll be a good event, and we're excited to be a part of it.
And you'd mentioned that NASCAR really got this information to you a little over a week ago, last Friday. How quick of a turnaround has this been for your team, your guys? I know it's been tough for some of them to, NASCAR had to be deemed essential here in North Carolina to be able to allow teams to go back. And I know you have some guys that work on your team on a full-time basis there. How quick has this turnaround been for your team?
Well, I think for the whole series, it's been pretty easy for the standpoint of having the cars ready. It's not like we have a whole fleet of cars. We got 2 cars. They were ready to go. South Boston was supposed to be about a week and a half, 2 weeks before this whole lockdown hit. So our cars have been sitting ready to go. we just Ryan, my crew chief's been tinkering with things at the shop. And then once we found out where we were going to go, it was basically just, what gear and what setup do we need to put in a car. So we're just about ready from what I hear. The biggest headache, or not headache, but biggest, thing to get ready was just travel plans for who can come. We have to bring a limited crew, trying to get hotels. It seems like everybody in the world is going to Myrtle Beach right now because it's wide open. There's no rules down here. So just trying to get all the logistical side of things planned and decide, who can and can't come. Has been the biggest thing to overcome, but I think we're ready to go. Hopefully the weather's nice. It looks like it might be a little bit of a hectic week down there for weather, but I'm sure we'll figure out a way to get the race in.
No rules down there, but up here in Connecticut, we're still locked down pretty tight, just entering phase 1 less than a week ago. And this is the home of the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour for the most part. About half the races are run here in Connecticut or Massachusetts between Seekonk, Stafford, and Thompson. That said, no real light at the end of the tunnel yet up here, although we're getting closer with private test sessions. Would you be okay with adding more races down south? There's been a rumor going around when the whole Myrtle Beach conversation started that there might be a couple more races down in the southern states because they are open for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a touchy subject as far as everyone's concerned on the tour. Everybody wants to get the season started, but it's definitely, it's going to be a lot of give and take on both sides, the team side and NASCAR side. And, the teams are definitely going to be having to give up a lot here. Even if you win this weekend, it's a guaranteed loss. But, we do chase points. We have sponsor obligations. So there's a lot more to it. So we will definitely be there. But, it's tough to say if we have to go down there 4 or 5 more times before we can get started up here, how many teams can really do that? So especially if they don't allow fans. The fans being not being allowed into the stands is what's going to have to keep the purses down. So hopefully we can get the fans back. We obviously want to race with the fans anyways. It's not going to be as much fun racing without them, but the birds are back. But we, it's a way to get started. Hopefully maybe in June we can get back up a little further north, but you just don't know. There's so much unknown uncertainty right now. You just have no clue, but it seems to change by the day. I think I read yesterday that New York, they're trying to get the sports teams, the major sports teams back up and running. So there's so many moving parts to this thing, and it's just so hard to even guess what might be a 1 week in advance. We could come home from Myrtle Beach and it could be locked down again, or we could be wide open. You just don't know.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of things up in the air. We're seeing racetracks around the southern areas again continue to open up as things starting to loosen up a little bit down here, but you have high expectations for your teams. Obviously, a lot of things are in jumble right now. When things do get going and consistently, what do you guys have set for, your goals for the season? Will we see you race outside of the modified tour if the racetracks up there open this season?
Obviously our main intention and main goal is to go out and contend for the Tour Championship. But nobody really knows what the Tour Series schedule is going to, really look like. So if we can get in 8 or 10 races and they can have a champion, we'll be at every race they have and give it our best and try and win as many races and keep that streak of, strong runs we've had over the last 2 years going and try and contend for a second title. But, if NASCAR can't put together a full series and say Tri-Track or other series possibly can run some races, we might have to venture off and try and do whatever we can just to get some racing in. It's, our guys are itching. They've been, ready to go for a long time. Like I said, I've been ready to go for a while. I'm over the whole iRacing thing. I can't sit at my computer any longer and get my butt kicked by all these guys on here. So I'm ready to get back to normal. And at least if I get my butt kicked in real life, I know it's a little easier to take.
Let's talk about this weekend. What we do know, Myrtle Beach, you've been there 3 times. Haven't got a top 5 yet. What, a sixth, and a 12th?
Thanks,
what is it? Hey, I'm here. It's the stats. What have you learned about that racetrack, though, the last 3 years that maybe you can break that trend here this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, the last 2 years with Ryan as crew chief, we've had, I feel like, one of the best cars. The first year we pitted too late and it didn't work out for us. And then last year we didn't pit late enough and definitely didn't work out for us. So I think the strategy will be much easier this year. I think you might see, where a faster car or the guy with the better car doesn't lose on strategy. It's not saying that we should have won, but we definitely had a shot the last 2 years. We just made the wrong pit call. So with an intermission, and you only have to go about 70 and 60 laps on tires, I think it'll be a lot easier race to call, and you can you can anticipate what to expect. So I think we'll be in much better shape just because it seemed we made the wrong call twice. But, you never know what's the right or wrong call until after you run the race. So I'm actually excited, even though we have one of the best pit crews, that it's an intermission race, just so we can't stub our own foots like we have the last couple of years.
And in light of recent racing at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, pit calls, like you said, definitely tough to call. They can quickly lose you a race, unfortunately. But Myrtle Beach, one of the racetracks I always love watching, super abrasive on the tires, will be exciting to watch this up-and-coming weekend at Myrtle Beach. But Justin, again, good luck this weekend. Thanks so much for joining us. Good luck on finishing your home renovation. Hopefully you can get in some good night's sleep prior to in the living room heading down to Myrtle Beach. But thanks, Justin.
Thank you, guys. Hopefully we can win some races and come back on soon. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks. That was Justin Bonsignore, driver in the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. But up next, we've got your Whelen Engineering Short Track Spotlight.
Whelen designs and manufactures reliable and powerful warning lights, white illumination lighting, sirens, controllers, and high-powered warning systems for automotive, aviation, and mass notification industries worldwide. Every part of every Whelen product is proudly designed and manufactured in America and is tested on site to meet the toughest industry certifications. On the road, in the air, and around the world, Whelen is trusted to be seen, trusted to be heard, trusted to perform.
Wherever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires has the value, selection, and industry-leading warranty to get you there no matter where the road takes you. You can count on Hercules Tires to have your back when times are tough, all while adding money to your pocket. The purchase of 4 qualifying Hercules tires through May 31st, 2020 could get you up to a $70 Visa prepaid card. Visit HerculesTire.com/spring rebate to learn more. That's HerculesTire.com. Hercules Tires. Ride on our strength.
Back to NASCAR Coast to Coast, brought to you by Whelen and by Hercules Tires. Here are Hannah Newhouse and Kyle Rickey.
Here on NASCAR Coast to Coast each and every week, we get the opportunity to spotlight one of NASCAR's short tracks brought to you by Whelen Engineering. And this week, Hickory Motor Speedway, pretty much in my backyard of Newton, North Carolina, is our short track spotlight. It's a .363 semi-banked asphalt oval. It was opened in 1951 as a half-mile dirt track, though, and then was paved in 1967 and reconfigured to its current size in 1970. It's often called the birthplace of NASCAR stars and one of the world's most famous short tracks. Junior Johnson, Ned Jarrett, and Ralph Earnhardt were track champions in the 50s, and the Earnhardts won 5 championships in a row. NASCAR Cup Series first raced the track in 1953 with Tim Flock winning. Other track champions include Jack Ingram, Harry Gant, Tommy Houston, Josh Berry, and in 2019, most recently, Thomas Bean. Ralph Earnhardt and John Settlemeyer are tied for the most track championships with 5 each. Cup Series winners include Lee and Richard Petty, David Pearson, Joe Weatherly, and the final Cup race at the track was won by Tiny Lund in 1971. Weekly racing was scheduled to begin March 7th, but has resumed just recently in the past few weeks and will intend to run through October. Again, that is your Whelen Engineering Short Track Spotlight of the Week, Hickory Motor Speedway.
Whelen designs and manufactures reliable and powerful warning lights, white illumination lighting, sirens, controllers, and high-powered warning systems for automotive, aviation, and mass notification industries worldwide. Every part of every Whelen product is proudly designed and manufactured in America and is tested on site to meet the toughest industry certifications. On the road, in the air, and around the world, Whelen is trusted to be seen, trusted to be heard, trusted to perform.
Wherever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires has the value, selection, and industry-leading warranty to get you there no matter where the road takes you. You can count on Hercules Tires to have your back when times are tough, all while adding money to your pocket. The purchase of 4 qualifying Hercules tires through May 31st, 2020 could get you up to a $70 Visa prepaid card. Visit HerculesTire.com/spring rebate to learn more. That's HerculesTire.com. Hercules Tires. Ride on our strength.
Back to NASCAR Coast to Coast, brought to you by Whelen and by Hercules Tires. Here are Hannah Newhouse and Kyle Rickey.
Short tracks all over the country continuing to open up. This past weekend, we saw action all across the country, including out in Idaho. Meridian Speedway opened for the second weekend in a row. They had a doubleheader this weekend. Kyle Tellstrom swept both modified races on Saturday and Sunday. And Sunday, the feature event was super late models with Jeremy Doss making the tow from California, Garrett Evans making the tow from Washington, and TJ Monroe, the local, rounding out the top three. South Alabama also finally, 2 months late, held their Rattler 250. Bubba Pollard won the pro late model race, being the baby Rattler, and Ty Majeski winning the Rattler 250. Out in Tucson, they opened up as well a couple weeks ago. Cole Raz won that super late model race over Trevor Huddleston and Paul Banghart. Dillon Motor Speedway here in the Carolinas had opened over the weekend, and a familiar name, Carson Quapple, won that pro late model race, son of Travis Quapple. Slinger Speedway also opened up with super late models headlining their evening. Alex Prunty won over Dennis Prunty and Mike Held and Myrtle Beach. We've talked about them a lot over the last couple weeks. Jamie Weatherford and Sam Yarbo had split the two late model stock races, and Hickory, Kyle also ran over the weekend as well.
Yeah, for a second consecutive week, twin features for the late models, 40 laps this week in distance. Ryan Millington won race number 1 over Thomas Bean. Vince Midas won race number 2 over Gage Painter. It wouldn't be a night at Hickory without a little bit of controversy at the start of race number 2. Front row starters Matt Piercy and Nolan Pope made contact, taking both cars out. Piercy quickly to express his displeasure with a little bit of a helmet throw. Also got into a scuffle with Pope's crew. So all that captured live on pay-per-view over the weekend at Hickory. I think they're back in action this Saturday night for a third consecutive week. There are other tracks that we talked earlier in the show, restrictions being lifted slowly, especially up here in the Northeast. Stafford Motor Speedway here in Connecticut got the okay to conduct some private test sessions this past week. Monadnock Speedway up in New Hampshire held a practice over the weekend with a limited number of competitors. They have another practice day scheduled this Saturday. And Sunset Speedway up in Canada, they've been able to open up for private testing with very limited numbers and individuals on property. I think only 2 or 3 teams allowed at the track at one time. Unlike Ace Speedway, which you mentioned was in action over the weekend, a full house there. Tim Brown among the race winners over the weekend in the modified class. So, yeah, we're getting there. A far cry from where we were a month ago, and hopefully in a month from now, we will maybe not be back to normal, but be a lot closer than we are now.
Yeah, I have to commend all of the short track promoters, the series promoters, even Nicole Clark over at MRN, the travel that's involved for all of these race teams, because it's an ever-changing situation. Evergreen Speedway, they recently announced they're finally going to get private test sessions, like you'd mentioned. So a lot of their competitors are being forced to travel to race to Idaho. And I know for someone like Garrett Evans, that's 7-8 hours. For Jeremy Doss in California, that was 14 plus hours. And, we talked to Bonsignore. For him to drive down here from Myrtle Beach is a solid 13-14 hours, plus the financials that are involved in that. So it's a tough situation to be a short track racer, to be a short track promoter right now. But fortunately we saw, at Ace, the fans are there. They're ready to rally around the short track, whether that's at home via pay-per-view or showing up with their support.
And I think, that was one of the positives. When the confidence is restored back into the public, whether it be in motorsports or in any sport or entertainment venue, when we know this is all under control, people are itching to get back. And I think, the economy's not doing well right now, but I think if we can get back going here slowly over the next month, it could be a quick bounce back. But if a short track loses an entire season, we might lose a couple short tracks, unfortunately. So hopefully, we're heading into the first week of June. Like I said, another month from now, when we get into July, these tracks can have a 3 or 4 month season still through October and be very successful, and maybe act like May and June, just a couple of rainouts sprinkled in there. I don't know. I'm just trying to think like a promoter, and hopefully they can salvage it. I know that's a lot of the thinking up here in Connecticut is, we can throw May away. Kids are usually still in school anyway. It's not our biggest crowds of the year, but, we really want to try to get up and running by, mid-June when, the summer season is in full swing.
Yeah, it's sad to see, and hopefully everyone will be able to get out to those short tracks being as safe as possible, with whether that's restricted numbers, distancing, however these tracks are able to do so. But again, congratulations to everyone over the past weekend on those wins. Good luck to all of the racers that are getting the opportunity this up and coming weekend to go short track racing, whether it's the first time of the season or you're one of the lucky few that's been out there for a couple weeks now. We look forward to bringing some real racing back to get to talk about it. It's been nice to have something to talk about over the last couple weeks.
Absolutely. Yeah, there was a couple of weeks there where it's like, oh my God, where do we go from here? But, it was good. We had some time to sit down with some promoters and really kind of dig into the business and how this is affecting those businesses, whether it be our friends from the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series or just short tracks throughout our country here in America. So we got through it. Now we're talking about what we're here to talk about every week, and that's short track racing.
Yeah, absolutely. We look forward to doing it again next week here on NASCAR Coast to Coast. I'm Hannah Newhouse for Kyle Rickey and producer Craig Moore. We will see you guys next week here on the Motor Racing Network.
You've been listening to NASCAR Coast to Coast, presented by Whelen, also brought to you by Hercules Tires. NASCAR Coast to Coast is a production of the Motor Racing Network. All rights reserved.